Good morning. It's Tuesday. It's 10 a.m. I've got my coffee. Hopefully you have your beverage and we will have a conversation. This morning we're going to be in Acts chapter 17, verses 1 to 9. Hopefully y'all can hear me. Q&A after if you want. If you got any questions, you can throw them in the chat and I will do my best to answer them. Don't forget, this Friday is our missions trip fundraiser dinner. Hope you're planning to come. If you haven't signed up yet, you can do that through the website. You should have gotten an email about it. So plan to come with an empty belly and a full wallet and leave with a full belly and a empty wallet. Yes. Anyhow, okay, then men's breakfast is on Saturday. And then after men's breakfast, Emma Grant is going to be doing her beautification project. It's going to occur after men's breakfast. I don't remember what time it's at, but it's in the morning on Saturday. So if you are free on Saturday and you want to help with her beautification project, I know she would appreciate help. It'll be down by the creek behind the property. So plan to come and help her if you are able. I don't think she will turn down help. Anyhow, okay. That's all I got for announcements. Kind of blew through those, but let's jump into Acts. Oh, where did it go? Why is it not there? It was there earlier. Why is it not there now? There we go. There we go. Okay. So if you remember last week, Paul and Silas and the missionary band are in Philippi, and they get thrown in jail. Because of their being tossed in jail, the Philippian jailer gets saved. His whole family is saved, and the believing people are baptized. And then they decide to move on after spending a great deal of time there. And they move on, and now we're in they're heading towards Thessalonica. Oh my gosh, Thessalonica. I'm not going to be able to say that. They're heading to T-Town. Thessalonica. There, I did it. And so it says that they passed through Amphilos and Apollonia, and they came to Thessalonica, where there was a synagogue of the Jews. That it's actually 94 miles. I wrote this down so I could have it. It's 94 miles from Philippi, and it's the capital of Macedonia. So they head to this other major city, and there's a synagogue there of the Jews, which means that there's the minimum amount of Jewish men to have a synagogue. And Paul begins his ministry there. And it says Luke makes an interesting statement, as was his custom. Paul's custom was to go to the Jews first in wherever they might normally meet. That was his typical practice. He would go to a city and he would find the people that would have the most agreement with him from a worldview perspective. As a fellow Jew, they would respect him as a Pharisee, as someone who was able to recount to them the law. The bridge that he would have to cross missiologically would be, you know what? Am I dark? It's because I didn't turn on my flashlight or my light. Missiologically, it was an easier step to take. There was fewer impediments to him sharing the gospel with them, because his primary authoritative text that he would use was the Old Testament. And so the Jews already believed these things. And so if he could reason with them from the scriptures, which they all agreed upon, then he hoped that they would believe. And so there's less of the issues for them to cross from a cultural barrier standpoint. So he's going to start with the Jews. That's his practice. And he reasons with them on 3 different Sabbaths. So 3 Saturdays in a row, he reasons with them from the scriptures, which for him is the Old Testament. So the books of Moses, the books of the prophets, and the books of the the wisdom literature. So he's reasoning from these things and explaining and proving that it was necessary for the Christ to suffer and rise from the dead. So he's saying, hey, look, God had told us that this would happen. And the Jews historically have rejected that claim that the Christ had to suffer. They didn't believe in a suffering Messiah. Now, Christians came to believe this after witnessing Jesus's resurrection. The Jewish disciples, they were all Jews, believed that the Messiah had to suffer, and Jesus helped them see that. We saw that in Luke on Easter Sunday, which if you didn't see that message and you want to go watch a message that I hope would encourage you, you could go do that by looking through the channel feed and watch it. We see that Jesus shows them from the scriptures that he must suffer and die and rise again. And he helps them to comprehend it and see that through the power of the Holy Spirit. And so Paul is making this claim that Jesus had to die. The Christ, he hasn't said Jesus yet, the Christ has to suffer and die and then rise from the dead. It says, saying this Jesus, whom I proclaim to you, is the Christ. So Paul was proclaiming Jesus to them and showing that the Christ had to suffer. So he's going and telling them there's this Jesus, and he died and he suffered and he died and he rose from the third day. The Messiah suffered, died, and rose on the third day. This Jesus is the Messiah. This Jesus is the Christ. And Christ is just the Greek word for Messiah, which is the anointed one, which came to represent the Davidic king that would come in the family of David and line of David and heal Israel and bring salvation to the Jews and the Gentiles. There was this slow development of the idea of what the Messiah would be. And Paul is saying, look, the Old Testament testifies to these facts. And he says, this Jesus whom I proclaim to you is the Christ. And some of them were persuaded and joined Paul and Silas, as did a great many of devout Greeks and not a few of the leading women. So there are apparently non-Jewish people in the synagogue. So there's Jews, and then there are people who are it says devout Greeks. So there are people who are participating in the synagogue and probably living according to Jewish customs, but they are not Jewish by ethnicity or family heritage. And then leading women who are significant in the city, women who would be prominent. And that happened throughout the Greco-Roman world. But the Jews were jealous, and taking some wicked men of rabble, they formed a mob, and set the city in uproar and attacked the house of Jason. They don't like that Paul is preaching the gospel and people are converting and turning away. They don't want Paul's group to grow. They want to retain power. They want to retain financial influence. They want to retain the ability to influence the culture around them. They are dissatisfied. They are angry that Paul is taking people away from their influence. There will be times where people coming to faith in Christ will cause an uproar, where it will cause others to oppose the gospel, whether it's in that person's life or the life of others. The impact of the gospel has the ability to influence beyond just the individual that gets saved. And this is actually a good thing when someone gets saved and their salvation impacts those around them. We want that. We want their newfound faith to affect and change and work within their social sphere of influence. And this is why we got to go and tell people and share the gospel, because as the gospel permeates the lives of individuals, those lives then permeate and spread the gospel as it impacts different areas of their natural life. It's not a like once and it doesn't do anything. If someone's genuinely converted, it's like a domino effect. The dominoes slowly fall, or the ripples in a pond. We want to see people saved and we want to see that act, that event, affect their life and then impact the lives of those they know. Because it's a good thing when individuals' lives are transformed, because then their trajectory changes, and then it has the potential to have other families' others' trajectories change. Like, think of the impact that if your family didn't if your family didn't have faith, and then you came to faith, what was the impact that came from? Like, I didn't grow up in a household that promoted faith. I got saved at 18. My mom got saved just a few months before me, and that's when our family trajectory changed. And now it's impacted my kid's life. It's impacted my brother's life and other people's lives because of the trajectory that changed when we got saved. And so this is, it's impacting it, and it's causing a problem, but that problem is part and parcel of the gospel. We are told that we will be opposed. And they attacked the house of Jason, seeking to bring them out to the crowd. And when they could not find them, they dragged Jason and some of the brothers before the city authorities, shouting, "These men who have turned the world upside down have come here also." And Jason has received them, and they are all acting against the decrees of Caesar, saying that there is another king, Jesus. They're making a declarative statement of what part of Paul's message, which is that there is a different king and we're to submit to him. It is subversive, but not in the way that they mean. Jesus's kingdom is not of this world. And so his kingdom rules and reigns everywhere, perpetually, forever. But it is slowly being realized. It's the now and the not yet of the kingdom. It has come, but it's not yet fully realized. And so Paul's going to declare it and call people to live in light of it. And so apparently Jason is probably a believer, and he's welcomed Paul and Silas and whoever else, and they are they're at his house. And so he's the closest known associate, and so he gets dragged before the people. And the people and the city authorities were disturbed when they heard these things, because if you are known to be promoting another king other than Caesar, that is treason. You can't do that. And so they are fearful for what will be the consequences if Thessalonica, I cannot say that quickly today, Thessalonica, if you are the city, you are worried if word gets out that there is this movement within this city of appointing another king, it could spell trouble. And so they are fearful as a result of it. They are disturbed when they heard those things. And then what they do is they take they require Jason to post a bond and say, do not cause any more trouble. Jason, if you cause more trouble, it's not going to go well for you. And so he posts this security, and they take it, and they will hold it until it becomes evident that the rebel rousers are no longer in effect. So that probably means that Paul and Silas would have to move on, because they would not, they don't want to cause more uproar, because the Jewish people there would continue to fight against him. They're not just going to let him off the hook in that moment. And so they are essentially, it's Paul's being forced out yet again. He keeps getting moved on through circumstances that continue to spread the gospel. When you look at the book of Acts, it's fascinating to see how God continually uses circumstances to spread out the gospel. And it's often through persecution. You think of different moments in the church in Acts where the persecution drives the gospel outward to new places. Friends, persecution is not something to be sought after, but it's not something to be avoided either. it's something that can spread the gospel. So when we experience persecution for our faith, it's something that we're seeing an example in Acts of we should rejoice in it, that we're counted worthy to suffer for the name, and we should also see it as an opportunity to spread the gospel. Paul and Silas went to Thessalonica to share the gospel, and people heard and people believed, and then they move on. Same thing with he's in Philippi, and then shares the gospel, people get saved, and then he's forced to move on. We should thank the Lord for the opportunities to share the gospel that come as a result of it. Friends, we also see in this that we should at times seek individuals who might be more receptive to our ministry as a result of a shared conviction, but we need to minister to them, and we need to minister to all the people. When we share the gospel with people, we don't necessarily go look for the hardest person to win. We just look for the people that the Lord has provided us those opportunities, people that we might have something in common with, and maybe you have someone that you sew with, and you crochet with, or you play bunco with, and you can share the gospel with them in those environments. Or maybe you have a buddy that you like to go fishing with who's not a believer, and you take the opportunity to share the gospel with him, or a hunting buddy, or someone you get coffee with, someone you regularly run into at the coffee shop. Those pre-existing relationships, who can you share the gospel with that as that there is a lower boundary? Like when we think of sharing the gospel, it doesn't need to be people that we've never interacted with before, but we can seek to share with people that there is that lower barrier to entry, so to speak. So, friends, I would encourage you to pray about and ask the Lord who you might be able to share the gospel with this week. Paul was faithful to share. We need to be faithful to share. And don't be surprised when negative things happen for sharing the gospel. That's not a bad thing. That's not an indication that the Lord is against that work. It's an indication that the enemy is against that work. And friends, we should be aware of his schemes. So I hope that encourages you, exhorts you. I hope seeing Paul and Silas and others being willing to suffer for the name encourages you to be willing to overcome maybe your discomforts or your concerns or your apprehensions about sharing the gospel, because, friends, it's good news that Jesus died and rose again. It is good news that the Christ suffered and died and rose on the third day. And it's a message that will, what they don't realize, transform the world. These men have turned the world upside down. Will we turn the world upside down? Will we be faithful to the task of sharing the gospel and turn the world upside down? I hope we will. All right. I don't see any questions in the Q&A or in the comments in the chat, so I'm assuming there aren't any. I hope you have a great rest of your week. See you Friday for the dinner. Men, see you Saturday for men's breakfast. Don't forget, you can come help Emma on Saturday. If you have any questions, shoot me an email, text, call the office, whatever it may be. All right. Hope you have a great rest of your week, friends.